God, I forgot we were recording.
Yeah.
Um, okay.
Intro?
What intro? This intro is going to be using intro question mark. Welcome back to Right as Rain. I had to remember the name of the show.
Good
Oh
job.
God. It's a bit of a catch-up show. It is now mid-May, right? Um, about is it has it been 4 matches since our like the first 4 matches of the season? It's been 4 matches. Yeah, I guess we're doing 4 game chunks here.
Mm.
Um, the Rain aren't in a bad spot, you know. There's a lot of season to play. Um, and really since that last episode though, they've been on this solid run. Um, they had this unbeaten streak of 3 matches. And really, that Houston match that they lost this past 3 days ago, actually. I don't know. It just, it's a tough. I think it shows the parity of the NWSL and that there's room to grow for this team. So yeah, no, and the reason we are kind of in and out of this is both Bella and I are. Well, Bella's in school still. Bella has to graduate. Nerd. Um, and we both have a lot that we do in our respective sports jobs. We're working on more players and puppies episodes. I think that is fair to say.
We are
I hope I'm not
trying. Ryan,
okay.
please.
Okay. I was good. I didn't know if you want me to hide that, but yeah, we got more of our
Should I say
players and
Leslie,
puppy
please,
shows.
instead?
Um, at I can text her and just at Leslie. I don't know why I would at someone on my phone
That's an odd
in the
choice.
text, but
Mm.
yeah. So working on that. I mean, as Bella gestured, the storm season starts. Regular season starts on Saturday, so there's a lot going on around here. I think before anything else, though, it's kind of not kind of, it's been a difficult week in the women's soccer world, with Savvy King, and what happened there. Thankfully, from everything I read, and unless I missed something, she's doing well. She's back at home now. And I think the family just wants privacy at this time, which is understandable given
I don't
how,
know if she's back at home, but she is with
no,
family at the hospital.
okay.
Just because
Um,
she only underwent heart surgery on Tuesday. My guess is you stay in the
oh,
hospital for
okay. So
more
I
than a
think it's
day
more
after a
her
surgery
being
like
with
that.
family
She,
is what
but
I
she is
saw.
with family and she is recovering and her prognosis is good.
Yeah, okay. So I think that was the main thing with that. And I know it was just like during the pre-match presser ahead of the Houston match, Laura made sure herself to mention that. I know it was asked of God, who did we talk to? I think it was Jordan that we talked to pre-match. I don't know. I was there. I was in the Cafe Vita in Pioneer Square. I don't remember a lot of things. But anyway, I know she was asked about it. So that as well as I can double check. Yep, it was Jordan Bug. I do remember things. Um Locally, Mia Hamant, with Mia with UW Women's Soccer, um, you know, had a terrible diagnosis somewhat recently, but I mean she's been able to raise a good amount of money to deal with the costs of dealing with cancer, working to deal with that because it Lord knows, especially not in this country in this climate, that is not cheap. Diagnosed with a rare kidney cancer after she had a really great season with Washington. I mean, Washington was one of the better defensive women's soccer teams in the NCAA this past year, and their goalkeeper was no like she was a big part of that. Um, so she seems to be in good spirits. She's got a Instagram that you can follow along with her journey. I believe it's at Mia Kicks Cancer. Yep, at Mia Kicks Cancer. Kind of detailing it. Oh, she's gone bald. Yep. She's she's
You got your
joined
look.
the ranks. Yep. She had the bob for a little bit. The Rain also before the match held a banner that says "We're with you, Mia," ahead of the Houston match, which was really cool to see. I tried to get a picture with my phone. I think Bella saw me try to get a picture, but it just happened too quick, and my phone's not that good. Um, but yes, I believe if you do want, the women's game. The women's game shared it as well. Sam Lewis shared a message, her GoFundMe. I will put that in the link, the bio. Sorry, of this, and yeah, she's raised $117,000. Jesus Christ, that is awesome. Um, God, oh Jesus, yeah, I think it was at like 25,000 initially. That's really cool. So, yeah, I thought that was important to talk about, especially just the women's soccer scene, let alone the women's sports scene in the city is growing so quickly. Obviously with the rain, and UW women's soccer has played a good amount uh, of a role in, I guess, the rain, just because of the pipeline, and then the scrimmages. Sorry, um, and then of course the USLW league teams around here as well. So anyway, I thought that was important to say in the beginning because sometimes by the end of a podcast, people just tune the fuck out. Um, so anyway, let's talk about this team. They've been on a decent little run, Bella. I'm sure they'd like to, and Laura certainly would like to win the matches by more than a goal. But and I think it would be easier for our hearts. But yeah, after that Orlando match on the 12th, that we kind of looked at the first four matches of the season. Sorry, still doing that. Um, they hosted Portland first match in that rivalry this year. They beat them 1-0, and it came early. It was Maddie Darlene's first NWSL goal. Very cool. Came in the fourth minute. I After the Orlando match and how hard she'd worked and the chances she had, like it was nice to see her get on the scoreboard like that. Um, and the Rain kind of had to just battle the hell out and hold on to that because they didn't score again after that. Um, I look at this match and I see three yellow cards and I'm like, yep, that's about right for this match, this rivalry. Um, you know, so that was nice to get the 3 points at home. Portland, I was gonna say Portland hasn't been that stellar this year, but they're sixth in the table. It's weird for me to see them without the firepower that they normally have, and I think that's why my mind takes them down a peg per se. Um, I'm gonna lump them all into one. So I'm sure you want to talk about individual things, and if you want to jump in, please do that. But since we got four matches, I'm gonna kind of lump them. Um, oh goodness, yeah, this Bay FC match on the road. I think because of the way last year's match at Bay FC went, I just have bad memories of playing at Bay FC, which not like there are a lot of them to be. Um, but yeah, Bay FC got on the board first in the 32nd minute. Seattle really should have had at least one goal in the first half. Off of I remember Bella texting me this because the Mariners were playing at home during it, and I did have the match up on my second screen to my left, but I must have missed it because Bella goes, "Oh my!" It was just some along the lines of, "Did you see that?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" It was a bad one. Bay FC essentially gifted Jordan Heidema possession in a breakaway, all alone, and I don't know. What would you say? Kind of overthinking with that one.
Yeah, overthinking took a little too much time. Just sort of, yeah, probably overdid it and and gave the goalkeeper time to uh get in position and make a save on her essentially.
Yeah.
um
So that was rough. But I mean, Jordan got some redemption with a goal in the 50th minute to equalize. I believe it was shortly off a corner, which the Rain had 10 in this match, which is kind of funny to see. Um, Um, so at the end of the day, getting the split points, they'll take that. And, I remember this was the match I had this stupid thing on my shoulder, and I tried to uplift Laura Harvey's spirits a little bit. I think she noticed eventually. Oh, she did compliment the moose at the end. That's right.
yeah,
Anyway, let's get back to the seriousness. So,
yeah,
you
I
beat Portland, sure. You split points against Bay FC on the road. not bad. Then you come back to play, Kansas City, and Kansas City over the last few years is nothing to, overlook, you know, whatever sort of terminology you want to use to basically look past. And especially not considering that they are at the top of the table right now, presently. And the Rain were able to beat them. 37th minute goal by Lynn Biondolo, her first with the Rain, kind of banged home a ball that was bouncing around in the box. Is all Seattle needs in this one. Again, I'm sure they would have liked to not play it so tight and so scarily, especially considering how much they had to defend. I mean, 13 shot attempts for Kansas City, um, three of them on goal. So, Seattle only getting two on goal, and one of them being, that one from Lynn. So, uh, huge, huge, just a big win. Again, not something that I don't think last year's group could put together. And they've really had to defend quite a bit in key situations. That, so many odd mistakes, I guess, uncharacteristic mistakes defensively last year, things that just we wouldn't see. Um, and I
There
don't
was
think we've
also
really,
there was also sort of those situations where, and Laura has talked about it, where they would concede a goal and then sort of lose belief in themselves
yeah,
and not
they'd
quite be able to get themselves back into the game.
get a bit deflated.
And that hasn't happened so far this season,
No,
right? Other than the Houston game, which
mm,
everyone is sort of hoping is a blip. The
as has said,
Yeah, but against North Carolina, they scored first. North Carolina immediately equalizes, come back, score a second goal. BFC, they scored first, came back to equalize. Even against Angel City, they got a goal back with a penalty after conceding the first goal. They lost that game, but it was still like some coming back from the frustration or disappointment of conceding a goal. And even, I was mildly concerned after Kansas City had scored the goal that was called back for offsides, because
yes,
sometimes even those sort of like situations where the ball went in the back of the net but it didn't count would still seem to sort of demoralize them.
yeah,
And against Kansas City, if anything, I think it woke them up to be like, oh shit, no, we gotta be on top of things. And I think the Kansas City game is a great example of how they want to play,
mm,
how they want the defense to start from the front, how it's a very collective team effort. They got a little lucky in that Kemba Chawinga could only play, I think, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Laura joked after the game that she studied Chawinga coming off in their previous game and her injury more than she studied the actual game that
yes,
Kansas City
she did
played,
say that.
because that's how good of a player she is. And obviously, like the similar player for Orlando, Barbara Banda, like her one chance on goal was immediately what won Orlando that game. So I think the Kansas City game was a lot of great things. I love Laura's comment after that game about goals like that being the reason she was so excited when when she heard there was the possibility of getting Lynn Biondolo,
Mm,
because Lynn and Lynn talked about it after the game. She was like, "Well, the player blocked my first shot, so I was like, let's go for a second time." There was no, like, to me, it almost looked like she kind of had like juggled it to herself, but no, she was like, "Okay, it's blocked. I'm just gonna try and toe poke it this time." And like, Laura talked about how some of their other forwards. Sorry, my dog. So I'm trying to get her to stop digging in things. Hello, I love you, but not at
oh
the
wow.
time. Um, but uh, that some of the other forwards on the Reign are kind of looking for that perfect chance. They want to connect well with the ball. They're really trying to get that ideal opportunity. And Lynn is just, and I mean not just in that it's not a skill. Like Lynn is an incredible player, but she just has this ability to poach goals, or just find a finish, or just be the first one to a ball in a scramble and not care how it goes in, but get the ball in the goal. Right? It's also kind of part of why Alex Morgan was good for a lot of her career, because in the box she would just tap something home. And that was what the Reign were missing a lot of last year was they would have those scrambles in front of goal and someone would send it high and you're like, you're 2 feet out. How did that even happen?
Yeah.
And so having, you know, in a game like Kansas City where you're probably not going to get chances in transition, um, partially because you're defending their transition game, and they have she found her way into the toy basket. Oh no, things are going to start squeaking. Um,
You don't want to
but
play. You don't want to get in a track meet with Kansas City.
you don't want to get in a track meet with Kansas City. I mean, you think of Temwa Chwenga, but Dabinia is shockingly fast as well. Loa Labonta is a menace in midfield. Bia Zanerato is back from injury now, and she's fantastic. Um, so they've got a lot of very difficult players to defend, and I think it was a really good example of just defending as a team, not defending your one-on-one
Mm,
assignments, but making sure that everyone was communicating, everyone was getting back to cover, everyone, if someone got beat, someone else is tracking back.
mm.
Um, and it was also the other thing that was really nice to hear was about how much Lynn is enjoying her time in Seattle.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
asked her about how she scored a lot of goals in her career. She is the all-time leading goal scorer in all competitions in the NWSL for a reason. But it was her first for the Reign, and she talked about how welcomed she has felt. And you never know how it's going to go when you go to a new club. She always thought that she was going to be a one or two club player. Now this is, I believe, her fourth, and it's a tough situation to move when you kind of thought that you had done your last move and she didn't know how it was going to go. But she has felt incredibly supported by both the team and the fans, and I'm not just like assuming that she said that. Um, she said that she, has loved the fan support. She has felt so welcomed by her teammates, and that it felt so wonderful to score for a club like that. And so that was just a really nice thing to hear because obviously, when you get a new player, you hope that they feel welcome. You hope that they know how much fans are excited for them. You hope that the team welcomes them, but you never really know. And so it was wonderful to hear from her that it's also been a very positive experience for her.
And I think, for this area, that with some of the teams, you get so used to their stars leaving, right? And I mean, even like some of the teams that you and I talk about, when she spent some time here, but Stewie left, right? There were different circumstances, but Jules gone. Um, with this team, with Rose and Emily Sonnet, like I think because of that, because of how hard it is sometimes to attract some of the top tier talent across the different teams in this area, um, like I think fans have not to be mean in a way at all. Um, some of the fans here have abandonment issues in a way, right? So like when it's a player, let alone of that caliber, saying I'm enjoying my time here, and then especially talking about the culture of this club, I think that really resonates with people. I know at CSS we have one follower named Sarah who like basically like let's fucking go. When I tweeted that, I was like, yeah, people are gonna like that. So, um, I know that was some great team discussion. Really quick, I'll cap off that 4 game stretch here with the Houston match. Which I mean, you talk about the defending, and they've been doing it really well. Um, it just this
up,
one the
up
one
until
goal,
that goal.
yeah, the one goal, 57th minute, Maggie Graham scores. Jordan Bugg's trying to get the ball up the field. Uh, Houston's there on the spot, which leads to kind of like a 3-on-2 in a way. And Maggie Graham just gets right in front of, I think it's Lou, for
Yeah,
basically just kind of a poke in. Um, and that's
yeah.
it. I
And
mean,
there,
Seattle, I mean, you can tell me what you thought, and we can kind of make this more of a 4 match kind of thing. But at least somewhat early on, it felt like Seattle would get like dangerous build up, dangerous possession, and then Houston just because they would come back, it just would get snuffed out. And it's like, all right, we're just kind of all hanging out here. Um, and don't really think they challenged, I think, Abby Smith much at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they had, and we talked about this with Lou and Haz and Laura. Um, that was a three, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Post match, the substitutes did a little bit. They brought some injection. Emery Adamas, was it Emery's shot who almost had a banger? Um,
Hers is the one that went off the crossbar.
Crossbar, yes.
Maddie had the one who was saved, the one that was saved, I believe.
Yeah. So, there were some chances for sure, but it just wasn't enough. So Seattle loses that one. Ultimately, they now sit at 3 wins, 3 losses, 2 draws, eighth in the league, which is good for the last playoff spot. 3 points moves you up to 4 or 5. I don't, yeah, 4 or 5, I think. So anyway, that's where we're at now. I do want to bring it up, you talk about the defending, right? And something that really stuck out to me, I think it was during one of the pre-match pressers or the open one of the open practices I was at. But Laura mentioned, yeah, I think it was the open practice. Laura mentioned, I asked about the assistant coaches, particularly because the last match against Kansas City, Scott Parkinson was in the back of the press conference and Laura shouted him out for something. Um, oh,
Yeah,
because
for
she's like,
working with
oh,
the defense.
yes, yeah, and he mentioned that, and I kind of prodded her a little bit about it, but that hearing that, I think Phoebe brought it up that the defense has been, staying. I think Lynn actually mentioned that they go out as a group and they're looking for the defenders
Mm-hmm.
and they're also watching film.
Yeah.
So there's that, you know, it just seems like there's a lot of onus on the defenders to not repeat what the hell happened last year. And it's just interesting to hear these details about what Lynn said about watching extra film, Scott working with them a little bit, and about how Scott, I guess, played center back. And so he likes to work with the defenders a bit more because Laura shared that she would like ideally the assistants kind of rotate things. But Scott's kind of taken a liking to the defending side of things. I don't know. What do you make, I guess, of that whole like the whole kind of journey there, with Scott being involved and with how the defense has played this year, because I mean they've only allowed, I think, 2 goals once, and that was the Angel City match. Um, they look good defensively. I mean, if they give up a goal, it's the rare mistake, it seems like. I think actually the North Carolina goal was pretty good, if I remember correctly. But I don't know. Yeah, just generally with the defensive side of the ball, what are you seeing with the Reign? Because it's obviously an improvement from what we saw last year, and it's kind of fun to hear what we do with the behind the scenes sort of thing, that we've talked about.
Well, if you had read my story for the Equalizer, no, I'm kidding, but I did
You
I
got a
did write
free.
about
I
this
don't. I
last.
don't want to pay.
I was actually gonna offer to send you just like a Word document of it if you wanted to read it because I
Just
like
do
don't
that.
expect yeah. But I kind of forgot to ask because you know me, I'm a little spicy. But no, genuinely, I did write about this because I thought it was very interesting. Um, the I think it was Claudia who had talked about the defense putting a lot of pressure on themselves to get better. It seems that it hasn't had to be an external push from someone. It hasn't been like when your high school coach begs you to get back on defense. Like these players are frustrated about last year and they want to do better. And they feel like they have been improving every game. And I think that's true. I think that, for as bad as the Houston game was,
Mm,
a lot of it was more up until the goal, a lot of it was more so unforced turnovers at bad times than it
mm,
was completely bad defending. The goal was there certainly was a miscommunication on the side there with Jordan Bug and Anna Maria Sorna-Gorcevic, and that ended up giving Yasmin Ryan way too much space and time to send that cross in. And the cross that she was then able to get in is one where it's like there's like a 2% chance of that not being a goal. right? So by the time she got to that, like, Lou had someone running in on her back and there was nothing she could really do. Um, so, you know, I think I don't know if that's them like still kind of needing to figure out that five back system, which is
Mm,
something that is I think relatively new to Laura Harvey's system. It's not that she's never played them, but she's much more been known to play a traditional four back. Like that just
yeah,
has sort of been her tried and true for several seasons. Partially because of the personnel that she has.
yeah,
Um, and I've liked what Maddie Darlene brings as a wing back, but I also kind of miss having her speed up top. I think it adds another dimension to the press
yeah.
when it's not just Lynn running at them, but it's Lynn and Maddie. Jordan's pretty fast, but she's not as fast as Maddie, right?
It's a
Like
different speed.
the fastest players on the team are definitely Maddie and Lynn. And I think against teams like Kansas City and Orlando, it made a ton of sense to play that wing back because
Yep.
Maddie Darlene did a F ton of defensive tracking back on Barba Banda and Temba Chawinga and Bia and like all of those players, and she did a fantastic job. Like her, one of my favorite quotes from Laura, that again is in my story if you want to check it out. Um, was, Maddie's such a winner. You never want to take her off the field. Like she desperately wants to win. She is going to work her ass off to do it. Um, and so I was a little surprised to see the five back again against Houston because
Yeah.
um, I didn't totally understand if it was because of the Reign's available personnel, if it was because of Houston's personnel. Because Houston have a decent amount of pace up top, Messiah Bright in particular. Let me go grab that squeaking toy from my dog. 1 second. Zero.
If it's any comfort, I can hardly hear it.
I can though. It's incredibly loud, and it looks like she
That's fair.
also pulled a bunch of stuffing out of a different toy.
Zero is
So
just trying to bring the sort of chaos that we're looking for from the attack at times. I was, yeah, while you're dealing with that, I'll quickly expand. Just, I think the Maddie Darlene point is a great point because, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but, between Lynn being hurt to begin the year and working back from that, and then now the wing back, like, we really haven't seen them both play and fully unleash things up top together, right? Like without
we saw it
Maddie
against
having
Portland,
okay, that's one match.
and I think
You get
against
what I'm
Bang
saying
as
though?
well.
Like,
Yeah, I do
yeah,
get what you're saying. Yeah,
I would like to see it more. And while I understand it, if the wing back is how things are going to be, did you even ask? I think you asked, was it last
I
match you asked about it? Kind of like, is this
after
going
the
to be a thing
Houston
you're
game, I
doing?
did ask like, why did we see the five back again? Is that
Yeah.
something you expect to see more of?
Yes.
And Laura sort of didn't answer, and then went into a rant about there not being enough effort. And I didn't really have the time or ability to be like, hey, Laura, that actually wasn't my question.
Hey,
So I
so back to that. Can you answer
so
that
actually I still don't have an answer to that. Probably will end up asking after the next game if we see it again.
if we see it again? Yeah.
Um, I mean, she's definitely liked the ability of Anna Maria and Maddie
Mhm.
Darlene to play those wingback positions. And I think at the same time, I do think that personally, this is my thought, that part of it is Maddie Curry not being 90 minutes fit right now. She
Yeah.
had some injury issues. And I think she came in and played like 30 minutes in against Houston, something like that.
I can double
Um,
check.
because against Orlando, we saw her as part of that five back, but then against Kansas City, she was able to play only like 10 minutes. And I think that Maddie Curry is
Hmm.
a really great player. Zira, hey, off. Is a really great player to have in that five back. I think I like um, her connection a little bit more than I do Anna Maria, but also, you have the benefit of a veteran in Anna Maria. I mean, anytime you can get someone who like won Champions League with Barcelona, it's like,
About 30 minutes is right. Yeah.
yeah. And so I think I think if Maddie Curry is healthy, you might be more likely to see the four back where Jordan and Phoebe are your center backs, Lou plays outside back and Maddie Curry is the other outside back. But it's also hard to tell because the first couple games, Lou was injured and we were seeing Emily Mason, and then
I was
we've seen a
I was gonna
lot
ask,
of, yeah.
is like, sorry to take you off of it, but it's like with the four back, right? Is Emily Mason that much of a downgrade to where you feel like you need to play? Do you get what I'm saying here? Because as you were talking about, she did play a little bit, you know, I think Maddie Curry switched sides because they wanted Emily on the right side. So if you're taking Maddie Curry off and Lou is here presently, then you just slot Emily Mason in. I don't, if they want, I don't know. It could be more than just, hey, we feel more comfortable in the five back, than a four with Maddie Curry not at 90 minutes fit. I'm just wondering, like, if they wanted to keep it, if the only thing keeping them out of a four back is Maddie Curry not being 90 minutes fit, then like, is Emily
Well,
Mason not?
I don't
Do you
think
see
that's
what I'm
the only
saying?
thing. Yes, no, I understand what you're saying. I don't
Yeah, it has to
one
not be the.
I don't Madison Curry is not the only factor at all.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
do think it is a factor.
Mm,
Um, I think particularly against teams like Kansas City and Orlando, we will continue to see a five back with Maddie Darlene on the wing solely because of the speed that she possesses and
yeah,
her ability to defend
yeah.
those fast as fuck players like Manda and Chewinga. No other way to say it. Like,
No, it's true.
I
It's
mean,
true.
against Orlando, the amount of tracking back, like the pictures, I like just even looking at the pictures, you can tell that she is running for her life, and she is making Barbara Banda have to work way harder than a lot of other teams have made her work. Um, so I don't think Maddie Curry is the only thing, but I do feel like if Maddie Curry is fully healthy, we might see a bit more of the four back. I think there are definitely games, again, like Orlando and Kansas City, where we will see that five back again. Um, because in the past, if Laura's played a five back, it's sort of been like a one off and then not come back
Mm,
to it. And now she's played it three times this season in what, 8 games?
yeah,
So she clearly likes something about it for some teams, right? Like they didn't play it against Portland because, Portland is a good team, but they don't really have those
no,
really
no,
fast players who stretch you up top. And I think the wingbacks also allow them to do, you know, maybe give the midfielders for the opposition less space because while Orlando and Kansas City have very talented forwards, they also have incredibly talented midfields, right? You have
yeah,
Marta and Angelina over in Orlando. You have Lou Labonta, Dabinia in Kansas City, like very talented midfields that make their teams run. They may not be the goal scorers all the time, but they are the engines of their team. And I think that the wingbacks have given the ability to clog up that area a little bit more than if you just were sort of relying on a center back to step up or someone in that back four.
yeah,
You have a little more cover if you're having your wingback step in there than if you're playing a back four. And sort of you're forcing them into the middle of the field a little bit more than allowing them to escape out the sides. um, so it'll be interesting to see how much we see it. um, you know i I also wonder, is it like wanting Lou at center back more than you want her at outside back and not wanting to take Jordan Bug or Phoebe McClernand out of that center back spot because they've
yeah,
been very good. And I
yes.
think that Lou is very, very talented,
Hmm.
but she will be the first to acknowledge that she is not young, nor has she ever been particularly fast.
Yeah,
So when she has been that sort of lone outside back there, it's caused a few issues sometimes.
sure.
It
Yeah,
definitely helps when there's a fast player like Maddie Darlene tracking back. Because as Megan Rapinoe would say, she would never track back for Lou. And like it would always kind of be like she would sort of joke about how little defense she played on Lou's side of the field. Um, so, because Lou is such a talented defender, and I think part of the reason that they have been good defensively is because they have her voice back. Especially with
Conducting
Jess
things.
Fishlock not healthy right
Mhm.
now, like having that not just veteran but talented veteran presence, because you have veterans and then you have veterans who have played more minutes and more games than anybody else, and no one was
Ever.
within even a season. And she has
Yeah.
also won 3 NWSL shields,
Yep.
been to 2 championships. Like she, she is an unsung player in NWSL history, unfortunately. But she is fantastic, and even after the Houston game, her knowledge of just being like, yeah, it gets chaotic after those goals are scored, and we need someone to sort of calm us down and get us together. And she is one of those players. And I
Hmm.
think just her voice directing people is a huge asset to have out there. So if playing a 5 back is how you get Lou out there, in the most effective way, I'll take it. you know?
Yeah. No, I think that's something maybe that like an average fan wouldn't maybe appreciate with like a Lou Barnes or like you mentioned, having just Fishlock on the field. Like I think I learned this pretty quickly, like when I started doing all of this in year one at Shaney Stadium, year one for me, sorry. And I could hear from the press box, because we're at a baseball stadium, I can hear
Mm-hmm.
just Fishlock
Oh
yelling.
yeah.
And I'm like, huh. So that's the engine right there. I could
Yeah.
tell early on. And I
There's a
think that,
reason that coaches want veterans on their teams. It's not
yes,
just like it's not arbitrary.
no. And I think the word that maybe like you talk about like experience, that in this situation is pedigree with those two. Like those two have been through it. They know how to get there. Like so, what was I gonna say? A few things. One, you talk about Lou Barnes defending, like as someone who did play as center back, so Scott Parkinson and I have two things in common: bald and center back.
Nice.
Um,
I have one of
I
those.
could watch
Can you
her.
guess which one?
I'm gonna ignore that. I could watch her make tackles for hours. I would listen if she would like
My
sit
favorite
down
pastime.
with me for like an hour and teach me. I would, you know, there's so many times where I'll do it and I'll like do a little gasp, and I wonder how many times Bella will hear it because it's one of my favorite things to watch when it happens because it's just so smooth and clean. And sometimes the attacker reacts and sometimes they don't because that's how good it is. Yeah, I think a good point that maybe I didn't think of in the moment when these matches and like looking at the lineups, right, is yeah, like you if you're Laura Harvey, put yourself in those shoes and on that cooler. Um, I'm not taking either of Phoebe or Jordan off. Like,
No,
and I was gonna say again, maybe to the casual fan perspective, Phoebe McClernand's so underrated. Like, I remember being
she's
so
been
worried about
fantastic.
her. Like when she first was it her when she first came here? It was just a little bit worried about any time she was in the
She
starting
had a
group.
tendency to pick up yellow and occasionally red
She
cards. And
loves
there
a
was definitely
tackle.
one game where Laura was like, she had a yellow early in the game, and she was like, I'm shocked Phoebe didn't get a second yellow.
Yes, I'm pretty sure I remember that. Yeah, so she's had a great evolution here, I would say.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, Charles.
hey Jen.
Hey, where are you going to watch all the away games for Seattle Reign FC this year?
Away games. Well, since Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. See y'all here.